Hello guys, welcome to a new video. In this video, I discussed you about would Scariest Plane hijacked, so let's start the video. Although flying the friendly skies is statistically the safest way to travel, the feeling of helplessness that comes when there's any hint of danger is quite unsettling. Most frequent flyers have been on planes that encountered at least moderate turbulence, for example, and despite the fact that it's not as dangerous as, say, an engine malfunction, most people can't help but brace themselves for the worst possible outcome. Now imagine that experience times 10, with an unpredictable hijacker who's hell-bent on making a political point to the world. Such dire situations can be difficult for the crew, passengers and law enforcement to handle, as evidenced by the incidents listed below. Excluding the unforgettable 9/11 attacks, these hijackings were among the most terrifying in the history of air transportation. LL Flight 426, 1968, LL Airlines, based in Israel, has always been a target for prospective hijackers. For that reason, it has taken thorough measures in recent decades to ensure passenger safety, and as a result, it's one of the safest airlines around. Its biggest blemish, one that changed its procedures for the better, occurred when Flight 426 was commandeered by three members of the Popular Front for the Liberation of Palestine (PFLP). Initially traveling from London to Rome, the plane was diverted to Algiers, where war had been declared on Israel a year earlier. All non-Israeli passengers were released, leaving 12 Israeli passengers. 10 women and children were released at the end of the week, and the crew of 10. It took 40 days of negotiations to reach an agreement, and everyone, including the hijackers, were freed. A conflict between Israel and Algiers could have resulted without a resolution. Dawson's Field hijackings 1970. In a single day, 4 planes were simultaneously seized by the PFLP gunmen, who forced 2 to fly to Dawson's Field in the Jordanian desert. All 310 passengers were freed, but Jewish passengers and the flight crews consisting of 56 members were kept behind. Expecting a hostile effort to free the hostages, the PFLP blew up the empty planes, demanding the release of the body of Patrick Argello and the detained Leila Khalid, both of whom failed in their attempt to hijack LL Flight 219. Conditions were met, and a conflict ensued between Hashemite King Hussein of Jordan and Palestinians known as Black September. Air France Flight 18 Nord 1976, 6 years after the Dawson's Field incident, 2 members of the PFLP and 2 members of German revolutionary cells took control of Air France Flight 18 Nord en route from Athens to Paris and diverted it to Benghazi, Libya. After releasing a female hostage who was pretending to have a miscarriage, the 247 remaining passengers and crew of 12 were taken to Entebbe Airport in Uganda, where 4 more hijackers joined the effort. Demanding the release of 40 Palestinians detained in Israel and 13 in other countries, they threatened to kill hostages if they were ignored. Operation Entebbe followed, as 100 elite commandos from Israel traveled to the site and stormed the scene amid a haze of gunfire to rescue the hostages. When the smoke cleared, 3 passengers, an Israeli commando and 45 Ugandan soldiers were killed. 1 passenger who was at the hospital was later murdered. Overall, 105 passengers were saved. Lufthansa Flight AK 1977, destined from Palma de Mallorca to Frankfurt. Lufthansa with 86 passengers and 5 crew members aboard. Lufthansa Flight AK was hijacked in midair by 4 militant Palestinians, members of the PFLP, who called themselves Commando Mata Halaim. One invaded the cockpit with a pistol and demanded the flight to Larnaca, Cyprus, but it was diverted to Rome due to insufficient fuel. After traveling to Cyprus, Bahrain, Dubai and Aden, it settled in Mogadishu, and Operation Fuerteventura, primarily undertaken by West German counterterrorism group GSG-9, resulted in a hostile raid of the plane and the killing of 2 hijackers and the injuring of the others, one of whom was mortally wounded. All 86 passengers survived. Malaysia Airlines Flight 653, 1977, the hijacking of Malaysia Airlines Flight 653 remains a mystery more than 3 decades later. Not long after departing Penang for Kuala Lumpur, Captain G.K. Ganjur reported an unidentified hijacker was aboard and later reported they were proceeding to Singapore. Eventually all communication was lost, and the plane crashed in Kampong Ladang, Tanjong Kupang, killing all 7 crew members and 93 passengers, including Malaysian Public Works Department Head Dato. Mahfuz Khalid, Malaysian Agricultural Minister Dato. Ali Haji Emidant, and Cuban Ambassador to Japan Mario Garcia. Some suspected that a member of the Japanese Red Army was to blame, though no evidence exists to prove it. TWA Flight 847, 1985, 6 members of Hezbollah and Islamic Jihad were responsible for the infamous 2-week ordeal involving TWA Flight 847.
should fuck her in the Benz.